Well, hello and welcome to episode 3, or as I've started to call it, stage 3. So you think it's a bit like a grand tour. I don't know if there's going to be 23. Is it 23 or 21 stages in a grand tour? I can never quite remember. Anyway, there might be 21 stages in my grand tour. There might be more, there might be less. It might be like a week stage race like the Tirreno Adriatico or the Paris-Nice. We shall see anyway. Maybe even like the Tour of Britain. And anyway, we're going to start this stage 3, not with a prologue stage. We're going to start it with a short story, and this story is called "The Invention of the Draisine." I hope you like it. The Draisine, incidentally, was the forerunner of the bicycle. If you didn't know that. Mannheim, Southern Germany, June 1817. 2 years since Napoleon was defeated at Waterloo. 195 years before Britain will win the Tour de France. A group of well-to-do Germans are meeting after lunch. They drink schnapps and smoke cigars. The mood is jovial, the banter is German. They are listening to Beethoven, who is playing the piano. In the next room, the ladies are watching a dancing competition. The house belongs to Baron Karl Draisine von Sauerbronn. He speaks to his assembled friends. "Gentlemen, I wish to present to you my latest invention." There was a groan. "I remember your meat grinder," said Baron Kenwood. "Too slow." "And your typing machine," said Baron QWERTY. "That was clever, but very difficult to type anything quickly. The layout of the letters was really confusing." The Baron ignored them. He clapped his hands and a servant entered, wheeling a large wooden contraption. 2 wooden wheels were separated by a short, narrow plank. Attached to the front wheels rose a pair of what resembled horns. The servant sat on the plank and grasped the horns and then moved in a circle around the assembled guests, using his feet to push himself along. Everyone gasped in amazement. "What is this?" they shouted almost as one. "It's a Lauf machine. One day this will replace the horse," said the Baron. "That's a terrible name," said Baron Raleigh. "Call it a chopper." "No," said Baron Bianchi. "Call it a Bianchi." "Call it a bicycle," said Baron Bicycle. "Fixie," said Baron Hipster, who had a bushy beard and was chewing a lentil. "Velocipede," said Baron Velocipede. "Nine," said the Baron. "Dandy horse," said Baron Segway, who stood on the corner, rocking back and forth. "That's a good name." "I'm not calling it any of those things," said the Baron. "I invented it, so I shall name it after me. I shall call it the Draisine." "Es geht nicht das Draisine," said Baron Armstrong, who was receiving a blood transfusion. "What's it made of?" asked Baron Colnago. "It's cherry tree wood and softwood," said the Baron, "and some iron." "Carbon fork?" said Colnago. "No, wood," said the Baron. "Wood's not strong enough," said Baron von Nicholas. "What else have you tried?" "Can you fold it up?" asked Baron Brompton, trying to lift it up and bend it in the middle. "That would be useful." "That plank of wood looks uncomfortable," said Baron Physic. "Looks perfectly comfortable to me," said Baron Brooks. "You'll get used to it when you've done 1,000 kilometres. It'll be broken in." "Broken, more like," said Baron Bianchi. "If I had one too," said Baron Strava, who was taking notes, "we could have a race and write down who was the fastest. And you could see when you did your fastest time, your personal record. And we could see who was first to climb a hill, and they could have a title. What about Baron of the Mountain?" "King sounds better," said the Baron. "I like King of the Mountain, or Queen, if the ladies also like the Draisine." "We could cheer and clap and show our appreciation," said Baron Strava. "You know, give kudos." "Only when deserved," said Baron Armstrong. The Baroness knocked and entered the room. "You're not leaving that in the house," she said. "It can go in the garage." "We don't have a garage," said the Baron. "Shed, then. Put it in that silly shed where you spend all your time." They all trooped out to the shed. The servant followed on the Draisine. It was difficult descending the stairs. The shed was a large wooden building and untidy. Half-built contraptions and inventions lay all around. However, all the Baron's tools were stored in a wheeled tool cabinet with sliding drawers. Hex keys, torque wrenches, spanners were all there, painted red and neatly labelled. "Is this all your tools?" said Baron Park. "Nice. Don't like the colour, though." He examined all the tools, weighing them in his hand, admiring the design. "You've even got a Torx tool," he said. "What do you use that for?" "I don't," said the Baron. "My Draisine doesn't have any Torx bolts in it, but who knows, maybe some day." A half-built Draisine hung from the ceiling on a pulley. The bits of another one were spread out on a large table. Another, larger one with a longer seat was leaning against the wall. "That's for 2 people," said the Baron. "What do you call it?" said Baron Tandem. "I don't have a name for it yet. Perhaps you could think of one." On the bench was a wheel-truing jig containing a wooden wheel. Another Draisine stood in the corner on a sort of treadmill facing the wall. There were 12 paintings of landscapes attached to a wheel on the wall. The Baron turned the wheel. The landscapes seemed to move. "I call it a turbo," said the Baron, "and these are moving pictures." "I like that," said Baron Zwift. "That's clever. When it's cold or raining or you can't be bothered to go outside, you can just come in the shed and practice your Draisining." "You should be outside in all weathers," said Baron Strack. "MTFU." "There aren't any mudguards," said Baron Blumels. "Your Gamler is going to get dirty." "No, it won't," said the Baron. "I've got a Gamler saver." "What group set does it have?" asked Baron Campagnolo. "It doesn't have a group set," said the Baron. "No group set?" said Baron Campagnolo, shocked. "No group set?" said Baron Shimano, who was visiting from Japan. "No group set?" said Baron Schramm, but everyone ignored him. The Baron took the Draisine from the servant and went outside. "Do you wear special clothes?" asked Baron Castelli. "Bibs, leather shorts, gabber, neck warmer?" "I'm not wearing leather shorts," said the Baron. "They'd get all hot and sweaty." The servant spoke up. "My sister Lycra could help, sir. She can make clothes for you. She's invented this revolutionary fabric. We call it cloth." "I'm thinking of designing some clothes too," said Baron Raffa. "But you can only wear them if you have a beard. They'll also be very expensive." "Perhaps it would be more comfortable if you wore a nappy like a baby or had some padding in your trousers," said Baron Chamois. "What shoes do you wear?" asked Baron Siddy. "Are they special shoes?" "Just shoes," said the Baron. "They're my own design. I call them trainers." The track was deeply rutted with lots of puddles. The Baron straddled the machine, sat down and grasped the horns. "You could do with something to put on those horns," said Baron Lizard. "Provide a bit of grip." They all watched as the Baron started to trot along and the machine picked up pace and then got stuck in a rut. "You're in a rut," said Baron Tarmac unhelpfully. "These tracks are terrible. Potholes everywhere." "Those wheels are noisy and must shake a lot," said Baron Zip. "And they're not very aerodynamic. You could do with a wider rim." "And wider tyres," said Baron Dunlop. "What are tyres?" said the Baron. "Good point," said Dunlop. "Talk to me later." "Give us a push," called the Baron, trying to escape from the rut. "I can see this catching on," said Baron Wiggle. "But it would be good if we could go someplace and get everything we needed, like a big shop, or just get it delivered." "Can you use it when it's dark?" asked Baron Nog. "You should wear something on your head to protect it," said Baron Cask. "If you fell off, it could be dangerous." "How many Draisines have you made?" asked Baron Giant. "5, said the Baron. "I think you've got enough Draisines," said the Baroness. "You can never have too many Draisines," said the Baron. "The correct number is n+1, where n equals the number you have already." "No," said the Baroness. "The correct number is s-1, where s is the number at which I will divorce you." "I'd better build another one then," said the Baron under his breath. The Baron wheeled his way back to the shed. He leaned the Draisine against the wall. "You should lock it up," said Baron Krypton. "Someone might steal it." "Who'd want to steal that?" sneered Baron Bianchi. The Baron turned on him in fury. "You think you're so clever? Why don't you come up with something instead of just sneering? Listen to you all, making comments but never doing anything. Why don't you do something yourselves for a change?" "Maybe we will," they chorused. He went back in the house and the others followed him. Once back inside, the Baron calmed down. He asked Beethoven to start playing again. "I might start a club," said the Baron. "We'll go out on our Draisines, all in a group. Maybe stop somewhere for coffee. We'll all wear the same colour shirt. No one will be left behind." The Baron lit a cigar and clapped his hands. The servant appeared. "More schnapps," cried the Baron. "A toast to the Draisine." "Es geht nicht das Draisine," said Baron Armstrong. And now a word from my sponsor. Actually, as I said in the previous episode, or stage 2, available where you can get all good podcasts, I don't have a sponsor. But if you're interested in sponsoring this little podcast, then please get in touch and I'd be glad to take your money and even give you a little credit in return. Now, I hope you enjoyed that little short story about the invention of the Draisine. And now for another monologue, and this one is called The Turbo Geek. So anyway, I've started going on the Turbo. I really love it. I do about 5 sessions a week. Sometimes I do Trainer Road or Sufferfest, or I watch something on YouTube. And I've just tried Zwift, this online thing, but I'm not sure about that. It's a bit boring, you want my opinion. People say you should get outside, but I think the Turbo is just as good. I mean, it's still cycling, okay? I know you don't have the wind resistance and the weather or the crap road surface and other riders and cars and traffic signals and blind spots and the whole social aspect of waving at other cyclists who don't wave back and shit. But apart from that, it's just the same. I fancy one of those posh smart trainers with like a power meter that adjusts the resistance as you ride, but they're about $1,000 or something. I don't have that. That's just mental. I can't afford that. I've just got a basic Turbo. But I do 45 minutes to an hour every day. It's a great workout. It's set up in the garage. I think it really builds up your strength and fitness. You can do cadence drills and high intensity intervals or endurance stuff. I do a lot of that. God, but it's cold in there. I have some music. I listen to Rihanna and Bieber and stuff, which helps. There's no window, so you splash a lot. I could do with a fan, if I'm honest with you. Of course, it wears your tyres out. I've got these special tyres, but they're still worn out. Apparently, there's loads of pro riders on Zwift, and there's a community of riders. I'm not really part of that, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if it's making me stronger. I don't notice it on the Turbo, and I don't ride on the road anymore. I don't have the time. So I can't say, but it must be right. I might try the Watt bike up at Cadence or do a spin class at David Lloyd or something. They're supposed to be good. It's quite soul-destroying and boring, really. I don't know how people do it. You watch videos on YouTube, but it's not the same, and it's hard to keep motivated. I wish I was in a club or something so I could ride with other people and make some friends. I hate it, if I'm honest. One day, as they say, this will all be over and the lockdown will be lifted. And we'll be able to go on the cycle journeys ahead again. And you might think of going cycling to some of the islands. Well, I've been to quite a lot of them. Been to Tenerife, been to Mallorca, been to Sardinia, been to Lanzarote. Was going to go to Gran Canaria a couple of months ago, but that got cancelled because of the coronavirus pandemic. Anyway, here's a little something about Lanzarote, and I call it Stranger in a Strange Land. Lanzarote has never been high on my list of desired destinations. Too bare, too stony, too common, too full English breakfast, too hot, too near, too Spanish, too easy, too volcanic. But I knew some people who went on a cycle training camp, and they said I should join them. I resisted, but last year I gave in. My first sight was not reassuring, but my view soon changed. There's a spare, unearthly, stark beauty to the landscape. It could not be more different from Kent. Some creationists believe that the universe is the result of intelligent design, an overriding intelligence that brings order to our world. But Lanzarote is the counter to this idea. There's little evidence of God's work in that broken landscape. This is nature alone and primal, self-governing, wreaking havoc as it goes. The land is coarse, colourless, hard and rocky, bare, treeless and virtually plantless. The few signs of vegetation are stunted, hardy, spiky cacti, occasional patches of thorny scrub. There's no grass, no soft verdant fields, no flowing yellow oilseed rape, no lush greenery, no weeping willows. The plants hug the ground, desperate for the few drops of moisture they can wreak from this forbidden soil. Even the bugs have flown the nest. There are no flies, no bees, for there are no plants to pollinate, no wasps, no ants or spiders. No sheep or cows or goats graze here, for there is nothing to graze. Imagine if Kent was a tarmacked car park, broiling in the midday sun. That's Lanzarote. The remains of volcanoes litter the land like boils on the backs of scurvy sailors, bare, waiting to erupt and spew their pus upon the ground. The people are a hardy lot, they must be. Their houses are low and white, half hidden in the ground to shelter from the relentless heat. Nothing above 3 stories, no high-rise horrors such as destroyed the Spanish mainland. The only crop is vines. Amidst the black asphalt land that passes for fields, low circular walls are built, and within each hollow sits a vine plant, hugging the ground. The roads are mostly arrow straight across the flat land, and the view stretches for miles around. On a bicycle, the view stretches towards the horizon. Cars can be seen from miles away, and only the relentless buffeting wind spoils the joy. One day man will reach for Mars and colonize that dead red planet. The first sailors should be from Lanzarote, people who are practiced at taming a land not built for humans.